Welcome to another episode of the Creative Power Hour. I'm your host, Marcus Whitney, and today's guest is the most lovely Libby Callaway. Thanks for being here.
Oh, happy to be here.
Yeah.
Anywhere you are, I am.
We're a little overdue. We said we were gonna catch up
Right.
at least.
Yeah, we have lunch at least once a year,
Yeah.
which is way not enough.
Not enough.
We
I
need
know.
at least
and we're
every
in
6
the
months.
same hood, right?
I
You're
know.
still
We're just
over
a couple
here.
blocks away.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, it will be a sad day when my offices leave East Nashville. So I don't like sad
Don't do
days.
it.
I'm not going to do it. I'm
Just
going to
don't do it.
refuse.
You belong here.
Yeah, I totally do.
You do belong here. So I think I told you the format. We always start with an origin story.
Yeah.
What's yours?
Okay. My origin story begins in Cleveland, Tennessee, which is a small town in East Tennessee right above Chattanooga. My family has been there for almost 200 years.
Wow.
So my great, I always get the greats confused, great-grandfather, Thomas Howard Callaway, was president of the Southern Railroad, and he loved Cleveland. Because it's beautiful. It's like at the foot of the mountains, and it's close to the Ocoee River. It's like the gateway of the Ocoee River.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful old town. And he stopped there, like I said, almost 200 years ago and planted the flag for the Callaways. So we've been there that long. And then my mom's family is equally as big as my dad's family, and they've been there forever.
Wow.
So it's cool. I grew up, both of my grandfathers were really active in the Democratic Party, which is cool. So we were...
Wow, so you've got that history.
Yeah, exactly. So we were kind of like the Kennedys of Cleveland was what we were called one time. Just sort of this. It was a little bit of a political dynasty in a way, And so I grew up working on political campaigns, and I remember this time of year I'd be standing, around election time, standing by a school, waving somebody's sign for school board president or something. I used to ride my bike down. We lived downtown. So I'd ride my bike downtown to the Democratic headquarters and get stickers and put them all over my jacket.
So that was just part of coming up. Wow.
Yeah, it was amazing. We lived 2 blocks away from my dad's parents, or my grandfather. My grandmother died when I was little. And then my mother's parents had a farm outside of town. So I had these 2 really interesting experiences, sort of like country mouse, city mouse.
Yeah.
Thing, which is great.
Yeah.
And when I was growing up, I thought my dad knew everybody in town because it,
felt like
he
it.
felt like
Yeah.
yeah. It's like he walked to work every day.
Yeah.
And it was really a terrific upbringing. And I was there in Cleveland until I went to college. I went to school in Virginia, to a school called Hollins in Roanoke, Women's College, and was there for about 2.5 years and transferred to UTK. And I did that because Hollins was great. My GPA was really high, and my social life was really shitty. So can we curse on this podcast?
1,000%.
Okay,
yes,
good.
we curse.
Fucking A.
Yes,
All right. So
absolutely.
So I had spent a summer with some friends in Knoxville and really enjoyed kind of having that anonymity.
Yeah.
So I had this really good college experience where I was an English lit major and studied art history. That was pretty much my minor. And so good liberal arts education. And then after school, I found it for a little while. I tried to play bass in a band.
Okay.
It was terrific. Got really involved in the music scene there, which was a lot of fun. Waited tables until I got an offer from my hometown newspaper to come and be the lifestyles editor there.
How did that happen?
How did that happen?
Yes.
Well, having a big family in Cleveland, Tennessee, of course, your family knows the newspaper editor.
Yeah,
So
right.
Corky Hoover, who was the first guy who gave me a shot as a journalist, was the editor who went to our church, and my dad was like, "Hey, Libby's looking for a job." I had always been a writer. I knew it was the one thing I could do consistently well.
Yeah.
I guess I was an okay student, It's I made good grades, but English was always really easy to me. Math and science really hard.
Yeah. Okay.
Chemistry almost killed me. Do not ask me to. Do not get me near a beaker. You don't want to see that shit happen. But so writing has always kind of been my ace in the hole, and that was the best experience. So the newspaper, the circulation was 10,000 or something like that, 15,000. Probably, honestly, bigger than that at that point because this was 1992.
Yeah,
and Newspapers were a different animal.
Very different.
Nobody had a computer.
Look, the World Wide Web really launched in '93.
Exactly.
So
nothing.
Just we're keeping track of where we are.
It was the best experience
Yeah.
because we had once a month on a Saturday, I had to put the newspaper together by myself.
Yeah.
And that meant going in early on a Saturday and going through the AP wire and choosing the stories, printing them out,
Yeah.
taking them to the back, waxing them up,
Wow.
cutting. It was crazy.
Wow.
Yeah, I took some of the pictures. I did everything.
God, it was such a physical medium. It really
it was amazing
in every way.
Yes, and it was absolutely like a baptism by fire.
Yeah.
It was not even by fire. It wasn't that fiery because it was a small town
Yeah,
newspaper
yeah,
and
yeah,
it was
yeah.
pretty generous.
Yeah. But for
Yeah.
for someone who's doing it for the very first time and
Oh,
has got to
yeah.
be out every day and people
Yeah.
are reading your work. That's
Yeah. And I was, lifestyles it's pretty lightweight.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
still at the same time, I found a way to write about things that I cared about. I remember I wrote about World AIDS Day. I did an editorial about that
okay.
in '94. And I also wrote about, I was anorexic in college, and I wrote about my eating disorder.
Wow.
And that was the first time I really spoke out about I will say my troubles,
Yeah,
my
okay.
challenges that I've had over the years.
Okay.
But so that plays into my origin story for sure.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was always really anxious, very high strung. Go figure.
And you're not anymore.
Oh my God! Thank you so much.
Yeah.
That's such a compliment.
You
that I
don't
don't come off like that.
Yeah, you don't have that energy. Yeah.
Yeah, good. Okay, good. Because I've worked really hard on it. It's been something I've constantly dealt with. And I was really stressed out about grades and about achieving. And, now I look back on it and I'm like, I should have just calmed
Does any of
down.
that come from having a family with 200 years of legacy
Yes.
and the weight of the last name and the
Yes.
Kennedy's piece? That seems like
For sure.
yeah.
For absolute sure.
Yeah.
And I think it was always, making my dad proud of me.
Right.
Right. It's like daddy issues. And so
Yeah.
it's been a long time working on that. And just making, wanting my parents to be proud of me. And I still do. That means a lot to me. But I'm figuring out how to make my own legacy and, honoring what the example my family, my grandparents, and my parents set, which was highly involved civically, involved in their church and very involved in their community. And that's one thing I love about where I am in Nashville right now. So I've been here for 15 years, is that I'm at a point in my career and in my presence here in Nashville where I have a certain amount of influence.
Yeah.
And to me, and it almost makes me want to cry, to me, this is where I've been wanted to be for so long because I feel like I can make a difference. And trying to figure out where those places are. I'm on the board at the Sexual Assault Center, and that work, it means so much to me. And I joined the Rotary Club, which I say is perhaps the most punk rock thing I've ever done.
Yeah, I can't
it is
quite
so
really,
punk rock.
Yeah.
It's we're gonna go in, and I'm gonna get more women involved.
Yeah.
And, younger. Are you a member?
I'm not.
You should totally join.
I'm
Will
having
you
to
please?
I'm on the other side. I have to take a break from Nashville
I know.
stuff.
Okay, we'll come back.
Yeah.
Okay,
Give
come
me
in.
a year.
Okay,
or
good.
So. Okay.
And then we'll make you come back.
Yeah,
So,
okay. All
we
right.
need more of us. It's
No, I know. I've been there to speak, and I saw it.
Oh, I know. You saw it, the old white men. And that's what my dad's for things to change, unfortunately, a lot of funerals have to happen. But it's a generational thing.
It is.
But
It
if
is
they
very
need,
generational.
And my dad has been in Rotary for 55 years. So it's that was, it was an important part of the legacy too.
It's an important institution.
Yeah, it's an important institution. But I finding my place in those institutions is really, really interesting. And it's important for me to be civically involved. But I'm with you. I've got to cut it off. My therapist has told me, okay, you can't do anything. You can't share any more things. You can't be on any more committees. Just, figure out where.
I went really, really heavy about 4 years ago. And
Yeah.
I don't know if it has something to do, you said you've been here 15 years.
Yeah.
I'm coming up on 19.
Yeah.
I'm coming up on 19.
It's about the same.
And I feel like I peaked probably 3-4 years ago.
You haven't peaked.
Well,
Marcus,
I hit a high mark.
Yeah.
I hit
Okay,
a high mark
I got
in terms
you.
of like just the number of boards and the number of things we're being pulled into and the political campaigns and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So I've definitely, what I realized is there is no end to the need.
Yeah.
And so like at some point I had to kind of, I wouldn't have had time and energy to do this, which I'm super passionate about right now. So, and I feel like is also a service, because everybody who I'm doing it with is in Nashville. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'm getting to have these incredible conversations with people like yourself. And I don't know. I mean, I don't know that look, we've all been in the Business Journal or these other kinds of things. I'm not part of the media per se.
Right.
So these are just, I don't know. I feel like it's a contribution in a different way.
It is. Oh, it totally is. I think it's like getting new voices out into this medium is really important.
Yeah.
Like, I was talking to somebody, my friend Kelly Henderson, who has a podcast for Velvet's Edge.
Okay.
It's she's very much in the beauty and fashion sphere.
Okay.
But I was talking to her about that. She was talking about how to differentiate what she's doing, and I was like, make it about Nashville. I mean, she's on a TV show, so she has this national appeal, but like, it's like people really want to know what people in Nashville think.
Yes.
And what they're doing. And like I've told photographers here who are like, I want to move to New York, and I'm like, man, people are dying to know what's happening here.
I want to get to why you know that that's important, by the way, here. So
I'll go back to the origin story.
Yeah. So you're writing at the local paper,
the Cleveland Daily Banner.
The Cleveland Daily Banner.
And my entire life, I've wanted to live in New York City.
Yep.
And like I'd gotten the opportunity to go a couple of times, in high school and in college. And but when I was a little girl, I used to read the Encyclopedia Britannica entry for New York City.
The Encyclopedia Britannica.
That was my
those
my
were
computer,
magical.
Right?
Those were magical. Like if you went to someone's house and they had those, it was like, ooh.
Yeah, I know. I can still see the pictures like in my mind.
They were beautiful. Isn't that?
So
that's a franchise that's actually kind of sad that it's gone away.
I agree with you. Door-to-door
Encyclopedia
like
Britannica.
Okay. Yeah, see them on the show. I wonder if my parents still have those. I would love to go back and see that entry. But anyway, I was always really, when I was younger, I was really into Broadway. But that was never going to happen for me. So I started applying to grad schools. And honestly, I knew Columbia's reputation. I don't know if I would have ever gotten in. But I didn't want to do hard news. I wanted to write about, I thought I wanted to be a rock critic when I moved up there. Because music, I was really, really into music. From my senior year in college on.
Yeah.
And it's
an incredible place to write about music.
Oh, right? Totally.
Yeah.
But so I applied to NYU, and it was really interesting. I called after I sent my application in. I called the school, and no, I'm sorry. Let me back up for a second. When I had sent in 4 application materials, probably called them or sent them a letter or something.
Yeah.
I got a letter back with this flyer in it about this new program called Cultural Reporting and Criticism.
Okay.
And it was helmed by a woman named Ellen Willis.
Okay.
Who I found out by going to the library and doing research was, one of the preeminent rock critics ever, plus the first rock critic at the New Yorker in the 60s.
Okay.
And also a woman, so just this really smart academic who just happened to write about rock and roll.
Yeah.
She was passionate about music, but had gotten also into feminist issues. And so the idea with Cultural Reporting and Criticism was kind of to take an American Studies program, this broad kind of look at what's happening in the culture, and to figure out ways to communicate that in journalism, via journalism. So it was really interesting. So I applied for that, got in, ended up being the GA in the program. So I was Ellen's assistant, which was really incredible. So I moved to New York in 1995 in August. Knew no one. Zero. My sisters drove me up in a minivan and dropped me off with so much stuff. Everybody else had a suitcase. I had a minivan full of stuff. That's how I roll. And,
what kind of stuff? Just
oh my God, so much stuff. I've collected vintage clothes all my life.
Okay.
My mother's family's business was interior design. So I grew up in a 1929 house that was always changing, and my mom dressed us for holidays in clothes she made, dresses. I had two younger sisters, Or there's this picture of us all wearing clothes from the 30s. You know,
Wow.
so, and she was an antique stealer.
Yeah.
So I have this, I've always been a collector. When I was 6 years old, she used to set me loose at the Atlanta flea market and be like, okay, you know, Roger, just come back here. That, you can't do that anymore.
No, but that really was the way that
Oh.
things used to be.
Yeah, but it really shaped me because she let me start little collections, and I'd go all over looking for it, and I'd look for things for her. And it really, I love flea markets. Like, antique shopping and going to flea markets is still like my favorite form of relaxation.
I'm glad we dug into that. Okay.
Right? Yeah. So I had a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
But I'm like,
you're going to New York. So I feel like it became pretty cool to move to New York after the 2000s.
Yeah.
I don't know how typical it was to move to New York from Tennessee in the 90s.
Yeah.
I grew up there. I grew up in Brooklyn, right?
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
I grew up in Brooklyn, right? And so the 90s, Giuliani was mayor, right?
Yep,
okay.
Totally.
So New York was still transitioning. It
still
wasn't
a little shitty,
it was still
as I like to say.
Yep. We didn't have. It wasn't like Disney World on 42nd Street
which
yet.
is
right. He hadn't wiped everything out there, right?
Right.
So that's interesting that you moved there, because look, I feel like people who decided to move there pre 2000, it was like a different.
The reason I wanted to move there was because it was the center of media. Like, I love magazines.
Yeah.
I've been a subscriber to the New Yorker for almost 30 years, and get this, I've kept every cover.
Wow.
I've got every cover of the New Yorker for almost the last 30 years.
Holy shit.
I'm going to do a room in them someday.
That's
a wallpaper. It is unbelievable. I went through the other day and like tore off this stack. It's unbelievable. I know, I've got a ton, but that's the kind of stuff I had. And that minivan that I took to New York was like collections like that.
Wow.
But because they make me happy being surrounded by stuff like that.
Wow.
But like, I used to, because magazines were my only glimpse into what was happening in New York.
Yeah.
So Interview magazine, Details magazine, before it was bought by Condé Nast, and even then it was pretty awesome because it was so cutting edge. But like, I used to get those, and I'd just like come home from the Cleveland Daily Banner and be like, oh, and just drop my stuff and just sit down and start reading.
Wow.
So I was just so fascinated by what was happening with these. You know, it definitely was the bright lights, big city thing that I found really appealing.
Yeah.
And I think I knew that I belonged in a place where more was going on.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And I thought to write, you needed to be in New York. I still think it's a good place to start a career for a journalist.
Oh, come on. Come on.
It set me up for my
New York.
entire career.
It's New York.
It's New York. And so you're in the middle of it
But
all.
there is this sense that I'm having right now listening to you, that back then culture was more centralized.
Yeah.
And
totally.
And so I think we're going to get to it when we talk about Nashville, right? But I mean,
totally.
Culture was really pretty centralized in a couple of places around the world, probably, right? You know what I mean?
New York was like the center
New York was,
of it.
yeah, come on.
Yeah, if you wanted anything. And like, that was so magical to me, you know?
Yeah.
And just to feel that energy. And also the anonymity, like coming from that small town where everybody knew your family, everybody probably knew you.
Right.
It's a little bit, you know, claustrophobic.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
So going somewhere where I didn't know anybody and I got to really be whoever I am. Whoever I am.
Yeah,
I've never said that. You said I was going to say that.
Yeah. And by the way, who is that at that age?
Exactly. I was
right?
25.
Oh, come on.
So totally forming my identity.
Yeah.
And was so lucky to immediately make friends and just... I lived in campus housing, so I was on 26th and 1st, right beside Bellevue.
Yeah.
So I could actually look into the garden where all the people who had been committed to Bellevue would like walk in circles.
Wow.
It was bizarre. But I was there for about 6 months, then moved to the Lower East Side. I mean, and there were still schmatas salesmen around, you know? It was like there was nothing on Orchard Street. There was nothing on... Ludlow had like one store and the Pink Pony bar. But like, it was not what it is now.
Yeah.
and lived on Houston Street and the top 2 floors of this walk up with a drag queen on the first floor who used to roller skate everywhere. She worked at Lucky Chang's and had 2 poodles, different colors that she'd skate with, and a DJ on the 3rd floor, and then us on the 4th and 5th. It was so much fun. We had views of the World Trade Center, parties like that everybody in the neighborhood would come to. I used
to go to the Village every weekend.
You probably came to my party.
Record shopping. And,
amazing. Other music. Yeah. What was that? Kim's. Yeah.
Got my hair cut at Astor Place.
Right. Yeah, for sure. I mean, like that shit was magical to me. And I was also a big zine subscriber.
Oh, the zines.
I was really into I'd look at Maximum Rock and Roll and find out about all these zines, and I was into the Riot Girl movement. So it was it just fed me in a way that was unbelievable. In the program, I met all these great journalists would come and speak to us. So a lot of people who worked at the Village Voice would come in, like Bob Kreskow, who is that old school rock critic. Yep. My friend Rob was his intern for a while, so we used to Bob would go out of town, and Rob would be like, "You want to come over and listen to records?" So we go to Bob Kreskow's apartment and listen to these walls of vinyl. It was incredible, just that access. So I ended up temping at the Village Voice, and Bob let me write a couple of reviews, little reviews. They were tiny, but I still got a byline in the Village Voice, and I did some temping at Condé Nast. This is before I got my job at the Post.
And the Voice isn't even around anymore, is it?
No, it died last year.
Last year, didn't it?
Oh, it was so.
Gosh, the world. The last 25 years.
It's heartbreaking.
The last 25 years have been something else. Okay,
they really have.
I'm just thinking Village Voice was.
But I am so glad I got to be in.
That's such a moment in time.
Did you ever use it to find an apartment?
No,
okay.
I didn't.
Because your family lived there.
Yeah. That wouldn't have been something I would have done.
Yeah.
But it was this super, super defining.
Oh my God.
But you brought up zines. I mean, I'm just remembering how powerful media in New York.
Oh my God. Yeah. Print media was
super powerful.
Yeah.
People don't know this. New York was late to the cable game.
Really?
Yeah, because you had to wire for cable.
Right, and everything was already.
How can you wire New York? Yeah. Wiring New York is super hard, right?
Right.
So the first thing we had was wireless cable, which was shit.
Yeah.
Terrible.
I don't even know what that is.
But I remember getting it. But we got it really late, So even though MTV was happening in Times Square, it wasn't.
Oh my God, that's so wild.
Yeah, it was. I feel like the Midwest got cable before a lot of parts of New York did, and so yes, it was channel 2, 4, 5, 7, 9, 11, 13, and then the UHF channels, which was where we had Video Music Box, Ralph McDaniels, and print media. Print media was print media and radio were huge.
Yeah.
Huge. Even today, I think they're still in New York. They're bigger than they are in other places, right? You know what I mean?
But having, there were all those small community newspapers where people started in New York too. And
absolutely.
The Soho News, that basically became paper magazine.
Right.
So, but I knew all the lineages of all those magazines, and was really up on reading about.
I didn't know that the Soho News became paper.
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I know. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
So I just love that stuff so much. And I remember.
So you're at NYU?
I'm at NYU. Well, I graduated from NYU. Yeah, graduated from NYU in '96, and I temped for a couple of months. I actually worked at this really. I can't even get into how weird this newspaper is that I worked at. I started as an assistant and ended it as the editor-in-chief. Don't ask. It was so. It was incredible though, because I did get the chance. That was the first time I covered Fashion Week.
Okay.
So I started sneaking into fashion shows when I moved to New York in 1995.
Okay.
And then covering Fashion Week in 1996.
And covering it meaning officially credentialed?
Yeah, credentialed.
Wow.
Going to shows. And then I was this newspaper.
That's a big damn deal.
Yeah, it was amazing. But it was so different. I tell this story about going to the Todd Oldham show and Susan Sarandon was on the third row. It's celebrity wasn't. It was all about the editors seeing the clothes.
Yeah.
And when I became an editor, and the Post didn't have, so I'll back up. So worked for the weird newspaper that's not really worth going into, and Tempt for about a year, and then got a job in spring of 97 at the New York Post. And being a girl from a small town in East Tennessee, even with some media savvy, didn't really understand what the Post was and how iconic it was. And like, I just okay. I just love it. I'm sorry. I keep going.
No. But because I grew up there.
Yeah, because you grew up there. Tell me what it meant to you.
Well, here's my question.
Yeah.
The Cleveland Daily Banner.
Yeah.
That was the only paper, right?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
No newspaper wars in Cleveland.
Right. This is my point. The New York Post, for the entirety of my childhood, was always in a newspaper war.
Yeah.
And oh, by the way, like, the Times was not even a thing.
Right.
Like, that's become like this new frou-frou kind of thing. Like,
right.
The Times was like, it was the Post and the Daily News.
Oh.
Going at it. Like headlines, going at it. So like, you're at the Post.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the war was real.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
It was like, it was amazing. It was just cool
what
to
was
like
that,
be there.
What was it like
Cindy
being
Adams
in the
would come in. Hi, doll. You know.
What was it like being in the newsroom of the Post, and what
unbelievable.
So what did it mean to be in the war? Like what were those conversations like? How was
it? Taught me being at the Post, so I started as an assistant, and within a year I was the fashion
I normally don't interrupt
writer.
this much.
This
is like seriously fascinating shit for me. So
no, I love it, and I love that you have like firsthand experience.
I have context for this,
too.
Yeah, I've got context
which is
for
really
this.
interesting. But so I basically, it's funny, I saw my friend Jeannie McIntosh, who for the first time in 15 years, she was the deputy editor at Page Six for the whole time I was there. She came through town last week. We went to Margot and had dinner, and we were talking about it. She was like, man, you made that job. You made your job happen. And I was like, yeah, I did. They didn't have a fashion editor. And I kept on going, well, you really need to expand your Fashion Week coverage. And so then they'd expand. I'd be like, well, you know what you do? You should do a supplement. So I found myself presenting to Lachlan Murdoch and, a table of 10 executives why I needed to do a supplement for them, which they launched with a huge party with all these celebrities at the Mercer. I mean, I just made shit happen. I was like, need to go to Paris, need to go to Milan. And like,
this is crazy.
I know. I covered the Oscars. It was just like, it was really, it was amazing.
This is unbelievable.
Access, yeah.
This is unbelievable.
But I made it, listen, I got everywhere I got, and I got amazing places by being nice and working hard and being honest.
Yeah.
And so the fact that I could go into this war and come out with my integrity intact.
Right.
And still like my legacy in New York is of being nice.
Yeah.
And I can't tell you how important that is to me. And because there's so many people who get so fucked up by it.
Totally.
And get the wrong idea. And it's like the fact that I'm like, you can achieve so much by being kind.
Yeah. There's so many places where I would imagine being in the newsroom is this really pure, like, purposeful thing, and I just don't have that vision of the New York Post newsroom as that way.
Yeah. There was I saw
the New York Post newsroom feels like this really.
I saw V.A. Musetto, Vinny was the guy who came up with Headless Body and Topless Bar, the infamous Post headline. He died last year. His obituary was in the Times. I read it and had a very fond memory, or a couple of years ago. But I saw him rip a phone out of the wall and throw it across the room.
Right.
That's
what I picture.
Oh, yeah.
That's what I picture.
I saw fights break out. Yeah,
that's what I imagine.
Crazy motherfuckers.
That's what
absolutely
I imagine.
Crazy.
That's what I imagine.
And I love it.
Yeah, right. I bet you did. You're like not even 30
Bill
yet.
Clinton came through. It's like
the
Jerry
New York
Seinfeld
Post.
came through.
It's the New York Post.
Yeah, it was really bizarre. Like people from Law and Order
That's
used to come through all the time because they used to research. And like the Ron Howard movie, The Paper was based on the Post.
Yeah.
The old Post down on South Street. So it's like, and I learned all this
Wow.
history. And like, oh God, I love the photographers so much. I love those guys who would come in after the paparazzi would all stop by, Larry Schwartzwald. after being out all day, standing in front of fucking Barney's. I used to go to Barney's with Larry and be like, hey, Libby. And I'm like, hey. Because if celebrities would go there, you know?
Yeah.
They come in and sell their photos.
Yeah.
And like, I do have a very distinct memory of...
Were none of the photogs... Staff?
No, there were people on staff, but like we depended.
But you always have
you
always
needed,
had the freelancers who were just coming in and bringing in stuff. Yeah.
Listen to this. Like the week before Diana died, I was standing at the news desk and the photo editor was on the phone. She and Dodie were in New York at the Peninsula.
Wow.
And I heard her say on the phone, "Do not come back without a picture of her."
Wow.
So like the media killed her. This is a total rabbit hole, but it's so true. But like, and so being complicit, I do have to say that like
Hold on. But you're not 30 yet, so you're not really complicit.
Right? Exactly. Thank you for absolving me.
No, you don't even get to finish that thought. You can't be complicit at that age.
Well, I left when I was 34, so I don't know.
Yeah, but still,
but
just not in something that's that big and has that much momentum.
I didn't know who Roger Ailes was. It's like listen, we were in the Fox building. I used to go on Fox. Like we would go downstairs and Bill O'Reilly was there, in full makeup and the earphones and everything. It's like getting coffee next to us. Like it was a weird.
I'm tracking
situation.
the time, so you were there through 9/11, yeah.
Yeah, we drank with Shepard Smith.
Smith.
I was with Shepard Perry. Shepard Smith.
You were there for the creation of Fox
Oh
News.
Yeah. Totally. It was happening downstairs.
You were there for the creation of Fox News.
It was insane. It was insane. I'm so glad I got to it before the internet did. Because, and also, research was calling Laura in the library and going, hey, I need to know everything about Donna Karan. And she'd bring out shoe boxes full of clippings. Isn't that amazing?
Yes.
And that we did work, and people did work like that. Like, oh, this is great too. One of my colleagues was Maggie Haberman.
Wow.
I know. So I actually co-bylined a couple of stories with Maggie. I know. And so seeing her now, my God, the work she's doing is incredible. Jeannie keeps up with her. We talked about her last week. Yeah, it's so cool. But so, and my whole thing about when people talk about how the Post is not reputable journalism or whatever, I'm like, dude, you got to be smart to write dumb. Right? Those guys are so smart.
Yeah.
And great reporters. Yeah. And so dedicated. And on 9/11, which was during Fashion Week, and I was with my friend Laura, and I was hungover because I was still drinking. And I remember I got a call from a friend who saw the first plane go in and was like, you got to call the Post. So I called the Post. They're like, we're on it. And of course, I didn't know what was happening. I was like, God damn it, this is going to mess up my entire day. I just imagined a little plane hitting an antenna. I was like, all the fucking photographers are going to have to go down there. They're not going to be at the tents. What am I going to do?
It's Fashion Week.
Yeah, it's Fashion Week. So Laura turns on the TV and the other plane goes in. We watch it on TV and we're like, oh shit.
Yeah.
Go up on the roof. I lived in Chelsea, 15th and 7th, watched them come down. Then we walked to the Post. Yeah.
You saw that live?
Oh, yeah, from my roof in Chelsea, for sure. And they blocked off the city a block below my apartment, and you could smell it.
I mean, Chelsea's right there.
Yeah, right there. Like the city there was a barricade a block away. It was bizarre, and I think it took me years to process it, honestly. But I worked. I walked to work. I got there. Everybody was there. It was the biggest news story of our lives. God, we hope.
Yeah, right.
And it's funny.
I mean, but up until that point, that was the biggest news story in the history of the city of New York.
But it was so interesting.
That's it.
Oh yeah, my friend Megan, she and her husband John both worked there, and they lived in Brooklyn. They got into the city before they closed the city down, and Megan was like, I sat there with him and I turned to him and looked at him after we realized what was happening. She was like, and I so needed a husband, and I looked at him and I saw a reporter. And everybody went into reporter mode because it was, like I said, the biggest story.
Yeah, of course.
So we all contributed. It was,
and quite frankly, the world needed the reporters.
Yeah.
I mean, I was down here.
Oh, you were here.
I was here. I had been here a year. I'd just gotten I was 6 months into working my first job. My youngest son was 6 months old.
Yeah. Wow. It's so scary to be a parent and have
Yeah,
that happen.
like I'm just getting my life together.
Yeah.
And it happens, you know, they say, hey, everyone go home.
Yeah.
You know, there is no work today.
Yeah.
Everyone go home because we don't know what's happening in America right now. And you know, like I'm from New York, so I mean, I knew 7 people. You know,
you did?
Oh yeah, my cousin Leon was part of the first ladder that went in.
God.
Two kids that were on my football line in high school worked at Cantor Fitzgerald. I mean, yeah.
I didn't know anybody.
Yeah,
but it didn't. You know, that means nothing.
I mean,
but
it was that kind of thing where I feel like if you grew up there,
yeah,
the likelihood of you knowing somebody was
pretty strong.
High.
Yeah,
very high.
Yeah, exactly. I just wasn't as plugged into that community, but yeah, for sure.
Oh yeah.
I mean, at first the numbers that were coming back were like 11,000 people could be dead.
Wow.
I mean, it was unbelievable. And listen, I saw some photos I should not have seen that just came back before they were edited. You know, it's like it was really fucking horrible.
Right.
But those guys, the same paparazzi who were, you know, getting shots of George Clooney shopping at Barney's, they all went downtown. And they walked back to 46th Street with their film. It was film by that time. One guy, like, it permanently changed people. You know, it's like just seeing that, but like everything came down around him and he survived and like was able to bring film back. And that was his first instinct, was to bring the film back. Unbelievable. So like that shit happening was so intense to see. And something else that happened, you'll appreciate this story. It's really one of the most bizarre things that's ever happened to me. That night, 9/11, you know, we went to, our bar was open, Langan's, which was where everybody hung out. Did you ever go to Langan's?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Right off Times Square. Yeah, that was our place.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sitting here like,
yeah, totally.
Yep.
I mean, it was, and Steve Dunleavy, who was like an old school columnist, he was like, you know, he founded Hard Copy. You know Dunleavy,
yeah. Everyone knows that name.
Yeah. We drank with Dunleavy. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But he would tell me, he was like, oh, when the piano comes out and they start playing Waltzing Matilda, it's over. You're done for the night.
Yeah.
So it's like being there when they come out and start playing the piano and Dunleavy sings. It was pretty amazing. But anyway, so we go to Langan's, and I had a couple of Australians staying with me at that point at my apartment. And like my friend Jonty and I realized we're stuck because there are no taxis, there's no subway, and we're drunk. And we don't know how we're going to get from Times Square, you know, to my apartment on 15th Street without having to walk. And suddenly this bicycle rickshaw comes by and we get in, and for like $20, who's going to take us home? So we start going through Times Square. There are no lights on. There are no cars on the street. We go all the way to my apartment down 7th Avenue without stopping, past Madison Square Garden, which is dark. You know, it was...
That's super eerie.
Unbelievable.
That's super eerie.
That's never going to happen again.
No, I've never seen.
Isn't that unbelievable?
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, that is.
And like we were going down, I was like, I can't fucking believe this.
Yeah.
Like no stoplights.
Yeah.
Just all the way down.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was really weird. And like I said, I don't know if I've fully processed it yet. Like I was kind of.
I don't know how you can.
Yeah, I know, right? It's so big.
That's.
Yeah.
Some things are big.
Yeah.
Too big to actually.
Yeah. Yeah. It was
wrap
really
one's head around.
intense. But it was, seeing the city after that was, seeing it come together was really fascinating to watch, you know, and see it repair itself.
So what's happening to you at this point? Because it sounds like things are starting to kind of hit a crescendo, I think, on a bunch of different levels, right? I mean... Right
before that, earlier that year, I had done, I won this, not won, but I applied for and was accepted to this really awesome thing that Murdoch does. Okay. So I could have gone anywhere to any of his holdings all over the world and worked on this exchange program. It was a 4-month exchange. And I had all these friends who had gone to Sydney and worked on The Australian, which is like the New York Times of Australia. The biggest newspaper in the country. So I went down, and for 4 months, from February until like June, I guess. I think so. Worked on the fashion desk at The Australian. Unbelievable.
Yeah.
The exchange rate was 2 to 1. I traveled everywhere.
Yeah.
It was great. My parents came down. We went to New Zealand. It was so much fun. Made so many great friends who are still my great friends. And so I'd come back and had that experience, and it kind of took me to another level at the Post too. I had a new understanding of what the company was, and what it meant internationally, because it's a different story down there being an employee of News Corp. And instead of being somebody who worked at the Post or worked at the Australian, you were in News Corp.
Right.
So which was really interesting. So I felt like I kind of had this different view of what the company was at that point. But and I met one of my best friends who's now the editor-in-chief of InStyle magazine, Laura Brown. I met her like the day after I moved down there, and she ended up moving to New York to live with me, and we were together on 9/11. So we were also together. I was with her in New York the day they caught bin Laden. So our joke is we'll always have terrorism. But you have to laugh a little bit about it. It's our thing. Terrorism is our thing. But I made all these great friends down there, so I get back and everything's going great. I'm still going to Europe to the shows, and I've kind of entered this new era of I've been sitting on the front row for a couple of years, and this is a different kind of you get treated different. I had a couple of people tell me, which was you're somebody now, which makes me want to throw up.
But did it make you want to throw up?
Yeah, it kind of did.
It did.
It
really?
did because I was never comfortable with being somebody. Okay. I was grateful for. I'm very grateful for it. But for the access and stuff, I got great access, and I made really good friends with a lot of people who do what I do now, people in PR, which has proved to be very helpful because now those people in New York are feeding me stuff down here.
Amazing.
Which is really interesting. But I went to this is a great story. I went to, became really tight with the Victoria's Secret crew.
Okay.
Went to Cannes.
Okay.
The Cannes Film Festival. On the Concorde with 40 Victoria's Secret models.
Wow.
Yeah, for their fashion show. The first time they ever did it.
No big deal.
No big deal.
Yeah.
So, then I spent 5 days with them, with the girls. In Cannes. I had an all-access pass. So I would literally, and the crowds are horrendous. You just hold up a sign and a Mercedes pulls up. You hold up this access pass. Mercedes pulls up and takes you to this enclave where the girls were practicing in the wings. And, I hung out with Stephanie Seymour a lot. There was a lot of downtime.
Yeah.
I got to know her pretty well.
Yeah.
And just... I can tell you a lot about models and how they interact, and my theories about modeling is a lot like high school and all the different cliques that happen. But But it was really cool. So I went to it was the big AmFAR benefit that the show was for.
It's a status industry, though.
Yeah, totally. Yeah,
maybe punctuate that a little bit, right? I mean, it's sort of by design. It's kind of that way. What's the pecking order?
Yeah.
What's the
totally. It's so interesting. So I always really appreciated looking at how these little microcosms were breaking down in media and then in fashion.
So because it's the same.
Exactly. So I got an education in journalism, but also an education in fashion and how the fashion world works.
Right.
And all self-taught. I didn't go to school for fashion.
But
I taught myself, I educated myself just by interviewing Bill Blass and talking to Oscar de la Renta and, sitting with Donatella Versace and you just having access to those people and really figuring out how to grow.
All right.
Oh fuck. Okay, so
this is fucking
I know,
good.
Right?
If we run over an hour, we run over an hour. I don't give a shit. Yeah.
So but this is where it gets. You will understand this. So all this time, I'm doing all these amazing things, and I'm miserable.
Yeah.
And I'm drinking too much.
Yeah.
And I'm hating myself for it. And so something told me, it was October of 2003. I literally came home from work at 10 o'clock on a Friday night, as you do, and was washing my face, and I looked up and I looked at the mirror, and I felt something. All I can say is it felt metallic. Something in my chest went bing, and I went, oh my God, I don't have to be here. And it hit me. I was like, I can leave. And it was divine intervention.
Wow.
for sure.
Wow.
Because why would I quit? Because I mean, I had magazines trying to poach me.
Yeah, no, you're
I had these great people going, I want to mentor you and make you into an editor. It's like,
you're right at the point where you're about to become somebody who everybody knows and has to kind of go through.
There was a path. There was an ascension, and like I would have to go through that. And honestly, take my chances. There are only so many titles.
Yeah, but
you're
pretty much right there.
Well, but yeah, I was close.
Everything you've told me basically says you were
being groomed
for. Yeah.
And I mean,
and I think most of us would be like, yeah, you fucking were already there.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? But I mean, like.
But I created this niche for myself, and like I didn't want to work at a magazine. I interviewed at Vogue one time, and like just asked about the culture at the magazine, and they told me like what it was like, and it was basically what they told me equaled fear. And I was like, I don't want to work at a place where you can't talk, you know. Because like our idea meetings were amazing at the Post, just throwing out ideas and things came together just from conversations you've had. It was so much fun.
So the Vogue thing is not a myth. That's like
no,
that's all
totally.
real.
Yeah. It's like Daddy sent me to Vogue. That was I don't know if I think it's probably changed. They court a lot more diversity now, but like
I'm sure it's changed.
Totally
but
changed.
I mean, back when you were,
totally. And I had a lot of friends that like I have great friends who worked there, but and a lot of respect for it as an institution, but it's not what I wanted to do.
Right.
And I knew that there was no way I was going to go in as an editor, a top editor there, and I didn't really see what my path was, and I wasn't interested in doing anything else other than what I was doing, and I didn't want that job anymore.
Yeah.
So I knew I wanted to move somewhere. I knew I wanted to move to Nashville. Nashville was like the only choice because I had so many friends here who I'd grown up with or had met, in college who had landed here. A lot of them working in media or in music, and I knew that it was like, okay, so I'll see what's going on at the Tennessean, but if that ever falls through, I could do something in the entertainment industry. And I literally go on journalismjobs.com, and there is an assistant managing editor position at the Tennessean open. So I applied for it and end up coming down and interviewing that Thanksgiving, interviewing at the Banner, at the Tennessean. That was a weird slip. Never said that before. At the Tennessean, and, really going hard for the job. I got the job.
Yeah.
But I got to tell you something. This is so funny. Frank Sutherland was still the editor.
I was about to ask who's the editor.
Yeah,
back then. Okay.
and he interviewed me on the phone, and like Gannett had bought the paper by then.
By then, okay.
And like I had friends from grad school who had gone on to work at Gannett Papers, and everybody was like, "Oh my God, don't work for fucking Gannett." I'm sorry, Gannett, but like I've just got to say.
No, everyone knows this.
Yeah, everyone knows Gannett. Yeah.
Look. No one can protect their image.
I know, exactly.
It's very well documented at this point.
But it's amazing. Frank said to me, he was like, "So, do you have any problem working for Gannett?" And I was like, "I work for Rupert Murdoch. I work for an evil empire." Yeah. It's like, I don't.
Yeah.
But, to be honest with you, it's like, this is what I've realized, no matter what kind of career I've been in, like, those big institutions, they think they want new ideas. They think they want energy. They think they want these things, and they will bring you in and they will tell you that's exactly what you're getting. They don't want that.
No.
I came in going a million miles an hour and like with so many ideas. February 2004, I moved down here, started the Tennessean, have a team, and I scared the fuck out of them. Because they were like, "Oh my God, who are you?" Because I was like, many things I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And it wasn't going to happen.
Yeah. And
I made great friends there, like Linda Zettler, she was the entertainment editor. We became really good friends, and like, Jim Myers, who's the food. We did
Jim.
Yeah, I love Jim so much.
What year was this?
This was 2004. So we Jim and I redid The Rage. We were the ones who.
I was a little pup still coming up.
Yeah.
Here. Yeah. 2004, I was in my second year working at Emma Email Marketing.
Oh, wow.
And we were 10 employees.
Oh, my God. That's amazing. Was that your first job here?
No, my first job was a Hellstream under Bobby Frist.
Okay, wow.
But Emma was my first real job.
Yeah.
And 2004. The reason why I know Jim Myers is because he lived on the same block as Clint Smith.
Oh, right. Okay.
That's why I know Jim.
Okay, cool. Jim's
but yeah,
great.
I mean, I don't even know if I was reading the Tennessee, and my eyes were just so like trying to do things at the company.
Oh, I'm
like
sure.
I just was not.
Yeah.
I was raising 2 little kids. Was not really aware of like things culturally then. But keep talking because this is.
I mean, Nashville's obviously a totally different place than too. I mean, so different.
So different.
And I was so grateful for that. I was so grateful for the quiet and that you couldn't get a meal after 8 o'clock. You know, it's like there were all these things like the access and like it just felt, I was so glad to slow down. And of course, I think coming here, the
Goldbergs hadn't happened
They
yet.
hadn't happened yet.
It was still a Faison restaurant town.
Yeah, exactly. We used to hang out at Faison's restaurants. Cafe 123.
Yep.
Or Detroit.
Those were the spots.
Totally. So I drank a lot there. Had one of my last drinks there, but I finally I had my heart broken on holidays of 2004.
Yeah.
And so I've dealt with anxiety and depression all my life. I've been medicated since I was 19.
Wow.
I'm 49.
Wow.
So I was like an early adopter of Prozac.
Wow.
So I'm medicated a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm a lifer. Like, I'm not going off of it. I'm not going to try microdosing. I can't. I know that I need it. It's what I do.
Right.
So, I've been on meds for a long time, but I'd been drinking. And I'd had a therapist who, I lied to about how much I drank in New York. And she was like, one day, she was like, Libby, you're never going to get your shit together unless you quit drinking. So I went to one AA meeting at a big church on Fifth Avenue, and it scared me so much because it was just like, hi, I'm David, and I'm an alcoholic. Hi, David. And just, it was like, I got to get out of here. Gotta go. Right. Yeah, I got to go have a drink. I mean, it was like, oh, my God, it was so intimidating. So after I, and the Tennessean kind of sold me a bad bill of like they didn't live up to their promises and was miserable at work. I was working twice as hard for less money and no glamour, no perks. And, I was heartbroken. I lost 20 pounds. It was fucking miserable. Hard time. So I went to rehab.
Yeah.
And it was the best thing I could have done. I went to Arizona to a place that dealt with dual diagnosis. And so I addressed my anxiety and depression, my eating disorder, and the alcoholism all at once. And quit smoking while I was there, which I smoked a lot. So I just tried to give up on my vices while I was there, and it was so great.
How long were you there?
5 weeks.
5 weeks. Yeah, that's some time. Yep. That's long enough to get through the worst of it.
Yeah, and it was great. It was so good, and I'm a very good student of that kind of stuff. I was in there. I was there to learn. And I still haven't looked back at any of the papers from now. I have all the journal I kept and everything, and I don't know if I'll ever read it, but I still have it. Yeah. And so I've been sober 14 years.
Wow.
I know. It's and it just, thank you. And it took me, honestly, it took me at least 5 years to get shit together.
Yeah.
It took me until 2009, 2010 to feel comfortable and to figure out who I was. Because the whole thing about when you start drinking alcoholically, which for me, I could party because people in Cleveland, there's nothing to do. You party, we could drink a lot. Drinking's very much a part of my family's culture, and no stigma attached to it. But I just totally, I started drinking alcoholically when I got to New York because I was so freaked out. And I remember the first time I drank a 6-pack by myself, then I made the worst bad decisions based on being drunk. So, but it made me feel better, and it made me fit in, and it made me all these different things. It's a tool, totally. It's a tool. And I used the tool, and the tool then used me.
Yeah, that's right? How it works. Yeah, it turns on us.
Yeah, totally. So I got back, and the job felt bad. And so I left the Tennessean and I started working as a stylist, which was really fun. And I sold vintage clothes. And at that time, that was so vital to me because I was also writing. I had my friend Cindy Levy was the editor-in-chief of Glamour, and she hired me to write a fashion advice column for them, which I think was a genius move on their point. Like one of the reasons that I got the job was because I didn't live in New York.
Yeah.
So they were taking a chance on somebody in a flyover state. I thought it was really smart and forward thinking on her end. So I was writing a column for Glamour, selling vintage clothes, working as a stylist. And, you know, on the local level, I was meeting all these new photographers and directors. And I was meeting all these retailers and other stylists and like getting this whole new community. And by selling vintage clothes, I still have great friends that I met because I sold them a dress. You know, I sold at Gaslamp Antique Mall, and then I came to Fanny's House of Music. And when they opened, I was with them for like 3 years. So I met P. P and Lee, who are terrific, and had a space in there, and got this reputation. I mean, I got it written in national magazines and stuff. And that's what I worked those connections. You know.
Okay. So like I'm listening to all this. I want to. Tell me these years now.
That was probably. 2005 is when I got sober to when Imogene and Willie opened is when everything changed. 2009, 2010.
Yeah. I was trying to get a sense of like when, you know, because 2007. I left Emma. I got separated, and I moved to East Nashville.
Okay. Yeah.
And
it's about when I moved to East Nashville.
Okay.
Yeah.
You were sober. I was still drinking.
Yeah. So I didn't see you at all.
Nope, you didn't see me.
We slept at different times.
But man, East Nashville was like...
Yeah.
I mean, it was definitely the center of the cultural universe in Nashville in terms of like what happened here.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like all this like God, I never even hear anybody say these words anymore. But what do they call all these guys, long hair, whatever? Hipsters, yeah. Thank you. I mean, I don't talk to anybody who even uses those words anymore. But like,
totally.
But like that whole thing that was sort of coming up, got over stylized from that window of time, right?
Totally.
Where like everyone was just hanging out at 5 Points, and you know my buddy Jacob Jones, who I did a show with, him and Reno did the whole
I love Reno.
Yeah, exactly. Motown Mondays and all that stuff.
So it was cool.
Yeah, and it was really organic.
Yeah.
It was actually really just happening.
Yeah.
Here.
Yeah.
You know,
I really wish I would have
had... It's a little more
had
manufactured now.
Yeah,
obviously,
totally. I wish that I would have been like as comfortable at that point as I am now, because like I was still dealing with social anxiety. Something surprising that people probably don't recognize about me is I've got major social anxiety. So like I have to talk myself through things, like even basic interactions with people. It's like, you know, it's ridiculous, but it's like, it's just my thing.
Yeah, sure.
So, but I know how to deal with it now. Like I've learned all these things, and it's just part of my makeup. And I've also accepted a lot of things about myself. Yeah. Like there's always going to be a certain amount of nervous energy about me in most cases, because I'm like, that's kind of my baseline. Yeah. You know, it's a little bit amped up.
Isn't it interesting, like, how, even if that's the case, because I've got my own, like, levels
we all
of that stuff.
do.
I don't have real labels that I attach to it, because I've never been diagnosed or any of that kind of stuff. But I've got my own shit, right?
Yeah, totally.
But like the acceptance of it, it's almost like taking the seat of the observer. Like talking about mindfulness for a second, right? It's totally. Like the minute you look at it and you say, "Oh, that's interesting." It's like it kind of and it's not even that it goes away, but it becomes more manageable. Totally, right?
Yes. And it's like you take the power away.
You take the power away from it. It's not this thing that has you like in a corner, like fuck.
Yeah, exactly. I mean? Like, it's like you've got more control.
It's like okay, I get you. Yeah, it's okay. You know, you can like talk to it. You know, what I mean?
Exactly.
Like,
and also, you get older and you give a lot less fucks.
Fucking thank God for that shit.
Right?
Thank God for that.
Oh my God. Yeah.
I'm so thankful for that.
I am too.
Yeah.
I've turned 49 this year, and like I just basically round up to 50. I'm 50, and that's fine.
That's
but I'm full. But I am full on having a midlife crisis. I will tell you that.
Yeah,
I am.
I get it.
And
I get it.
I'm working really hard on it. But I woke up last fall and was like, oh Jesus Christ, I'm alone. And it's always been okay for me to be alone. Like it's having a man in my life has not been a priority for me.
Yeah.
I've dated guys off and on, but I haven't had really long-term relationships. But like when I got sober, I just shut everything down.
Yeah.
And I realized that. I was like, fuck me. Now I've wasted 14 years. Like when I could have been like dating, and like I just was so, still getting my shit together and kind of closed my heart off.
Yeah.
So I realized I was like, oh, I gotta, on the spiritual level, on the energy level, I was like, I got a heart chakra block. So I've been seeing an energy healer, working on that, and I've had like after the first time he worked on me, I like cried for 3 days, and it let so much shit go.
Right.
But also, it's like fitness, like working out is really important to me, and like all these things, like figuring out how to take care of my physical body while also taking care of my spiritual self and also the energetic self. So it sounds very woo-woo. And
not to me.
I got lots of time for that. I'm like, I am all good about that. But just accepting where I am and realizing that things change. Like I never in a million years would have thought that I would have been doing what I'm doing now.
What are you doing?
What am I doing now? Exactly. Okay.
Yes. Good build up.
I will.
Awesome build up.
Yeah.
I interrupted you so much more than I normally
not.
do, but like this was actually really, really fascinating though, because like as you were talking, it's like when other people are telling me their stories, I'm listening.
Yeah.
My brain is not creating visuals because it doesn't. I don't have them.
Right.
As you're talking, I'm like, oh shit, I know exactly where that is.
See, I know, I love that. I love you having that.
You pulled me into a different place.
Thank you. I'm doing my job as a storyteller.
Yeah, sorry for dragging that.
No, that's okay.
That part out.
That's okay. I totally went back there too. I mean, like I talk about the post, and I just like I'm there in that room. Like I just go back. Like I just
think it's fascinating. And
I'm so lucky.
Here's the other thing. Just one more thing, and then I do want to.
Yeah.
This is something I think a lot of people don't know.
Mm-hmm.
So I grew up in New York. You've heard me say that. Mm-hmm. What that means is I grew up around a lot of other people who grew up in New York.
Yeah.
And I definitely have some people who I grew up with who have like done incredible shit. So like I went to school with and had a brief relationship with a very, very like famous DJ, radio DJ. Yeah, right? And I know, and I went to high school with some guys who were like big restaurateurs.
Yeah.
But really interestingly, the vast majority. My best friend from when I grew up, she's like a big city council person. Mm-hmm. But the vast majority of people who I grew up with in New York grew up to be New Yorkers.
Yeah.
Like, not like who had unfettered access or like a bunch of other stuff. Because like,
not like a
you
glamour
grew up
job.
there.
Yeah.
You grew up there. You didn't think that things were like fucking crazy because it was just where you grew up. Right? And like, you almost didn't have like these weird ambitions to do all this crazy stuff because you didn't see it as this cultural center. It was just home.
Right.
So a lot of the people who I know who have done incredible career shit in New York didn't grow up there.
Yeah.
Moved there because it was like this.
Most
of the people
that
I
they say that about LA, but
know,
New York is the city of dreams.
Yeah. Most of the people that I know who've like really hit like big heights from a career perspective in New York did not grow up there. They moved there.
Totally.
They moved there. So anyway.
For sure. No, I agree with that.
That's why I was.
Yeah.
It was really interesting to hear.
It's it's like so many ambitions.
Because you did. There's no question about it.
But I'm really glad I moved there. I say when it was still a bit dangerous to walk through the East Village. It was still a bit shitty.
Yep.
Things were a little bit. It was you had to like really show up at 9:00 if you were meeting somebody at some bar because otherwise how are they going to fucking know unless you call the bar? It's like. I like that I started to use maps that I held.
Legit.
Yeah.
Legit.
And it's funny because like I've got all these friends who, moved to New York a lot later than that. And like they have this whole other experience in New York. It is.
It's fine.
But I know. And it's like, but it's so funny. It's like I try not to be like, oh, it was so great back then. Because everybody does that. Their New York is their New York.
When you said you pulled up there and you didn't know anyone,
yeah.
I'm like, you didn't know anyone before the internet.
I know. Yeah.
You know how fucking different that is than right now? like it's not even the same universe.
It was amazing.
Like now you move up there, who do I have first degree connections with?
I know,
or whatever. Anyway.
It's so wild.
Okay, so let's talk about what you're doing now. Because what you're doing now, like I don't even think I fully understand what you're doing now
because I barely do.
Because it's but I really like that though. So
I know, and it's kind of my thing, like being like kind of like amorphous. But okay, so I will tell you that I was full on thought of myself as a journalist who was also working as a stylist and selling vintage because until Imogene and Willie opened and the denim company on 12th Avenue South. To put it in context for anybody
who doesn't know what it is.
They're celebrating their 10-year anniversary this year.
They changed the game, no question.
Right, no doubt. Fashion, people thought about fashion differently after they got here.
And 12 South wasn't really popping either.
Right. Oh yeah, and now look at it. They Miranda Ponce, they made that happen.
There were 4 or 5 businesses that made 12 South a destination.
Exactly. So when they opened, like all these people come in, they're like, you got to go in that store. And when I walked in, Carrie Edmondson, one of the owners, was like, we've been waiting to meet you.
Yeah.
And so immediately, like she and Matt and I knew that I was going to be involved in some way, and Carrie basically said, just figure out what you want to do for us and tell me what that is. So I was like, let's do a blog. So I did content creation for them, but I was also getting them press because I was calling. Laura was at Harper's Bazaar then, and I was like, hey, you will love this place. Come down and see it. She put them in the magazine. It's like got them in the New York Times and on Vogue.com.
This is great.
Yeah.
I didn't know this.
And it was just about calling friends and going, holy shit, you're going to love this place. It's so authentic and so cool. And rock stars show up in the backyard and like the clothes are great and like they have great stuff. So it was like I was doing what I do now without really realizing what I was doing.
Right.
And Carrie was like, wait. We're paying these other people to do PR, but you're the one who's getting us these hits.
You're doing the PR.
So why don't you do PR? And I was like, because I'm a journalist.
Right.
And then I was like, oh, wait, maybe I'm not. Maybe I'm not. Maybe I'm thinking about this differently. Maybe I need to think about good marketing and good public relations as storytelling. So it's just like a different means to the same end.
Yep.
Which is educating people about a brand, getting them to engage and buy the product.
Yep.
So when I started doing that, I did that for them for a little over a year, and then went out by myself and got a call from KP McNeil at Billy Reed in Florence, Alabama.
Yep.
And I'd had a personal relationship with Billy since he had a company called William Reed. He won an award from the Council of Fashion Designers
Didn't know anything
of America,
about that.
right, in 2001. So Billy and I met in 2001.
Okay.
So we had this relationship, an acquaintance relationship, but still we liked each other. And so I started going to Florence and consulting for them and helped them revamp their website and did some marketing for them. And in 2014, got the opportunity to do a house swap with the author Emma Straub. She wrote
I know the name.
The Vacationers was her book. I'm
Okay.
trying to think of it. Sorry, Emma, I'm forgetting your books right now.
Yeah, I mean, her name is definitely popping up in mine.
She was teaching at Vanderbilt.
Okay.
And
all right.
And so they had a place in Prospect Leopards Gardens, and I had my house here.
Yeah.
So Emma and her husband Michael lived with their baby River, lived in my house, and I lived in their 1910 brownstone. I walked in. I walked in and I was like, I literally said out loud, I was like, oh my God, I won.
Yeah.
But it was very postmodern the way we met, because we got hooked up by a friend in media, and I was like, here's a link to my house on the Selby, which is this interior design website that profiled me. And they were like, here's a link to our house on Apartment Therapy, which is another, interior design. So we were like, this is very cute how we're meeting. But when I was in New York, like I was still working for Billy Reed, and
that's kind of funny. It's almost like, oh, we're good enough for each other.
I know. We felt we were like,
I would not have been good enough for that house swap.
But it was so funny. Like I said, it was a very postmodern way to be like, this is my house. It was in a magazine, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So anyway, so they're lovely people. So when I was living up there, though, I was still consulting for Billy Reed. I had a couple of other clients, and just really, got back to New York. I'd always wondered what it was going to be like to live there sober.
Yeah.
And I remember saying to KP would come up when we would go to lunch. I'd be like, dude, I want to move back. No, I know what I said. I was like, I think that you need a marketing person on the ground up here. Okay. And he was like, yeah, that's a good, do you know anybody? And I was like, dude. He goes, oh, you're not moving back. And I'm like, no, I really think I want to. So they offered me a marketing director position, and I moved back to New York for a year and opened a marketing office for Billy on Bond Street.
Okay.
And, was what we figured out during that time was it was really hard to have that position be in New York when Billy was mainly in Florence.
In Florence, right.
Yeah. So it was ultimately a failed experiment. Mm-hmm. But when I got up there, though, I got to tell you, I was like, oh, man, I don't want to be here. And I moved all my shit to New York, And I'm like, oh, my God, thank God I kept my house. But I just didn't feel the same.
It hit you very differently.
But also, I moved there 20 years apart. I moved there for the first time in 95. I was 25 years old, then I moved back at 45. The amount of bullshit you will put up with at 45 is a lot different from what you'll put up at 25. And also, I made a good salary, not enough to live the way I wanted to.
Right.
And I was like, I schlepped every day. I'm like, I don't want to schlep. I want my Volvo back. So
New York's hard.
Yeah, New York's hard. And I came back here, and like 4 years ago, 4 years ago? Yeah, 4 years ago, right now.
Yeah.
And was like, okay, Libby, you have 6 months to figure out what you're going to do. And I was still working for Billy and, consulting, and had a couple of other small clients. And I was like, I'm going to start my own thing. And Laura Brown, who I've talked about earlier, Laura was like, I don't know what I'm going to call it. She was like, it's called the Callaway. She knows.
Right.
So I was like, you're right, it's called the Callaway.
Right.
So I was like, it's a communications company.
Yeah.
And I decided that my 3 verticals were going to be content creation, strategy, and communication, and just PR.
Yeah. Right.
So content curation and communication. And ended up I had Billy as a client, so I had this fashion background, so those clients have always been really important. But Nick Dryden got me involved in Noel, the hotel downtown, where I'm still a creative partner. Like, I curate the store there. That changed my life, that project.
It's incredible.
And
incredible.
I love telling the story. It's like over 55 local designers, makers, and artists were involved in putting that hotel together. And it is a physical monument to creativity in this town.
Yeah.
And to have been a leader in that project was amazing. So I started consulting on Noel pretty close to when I got back.
Okay.
And so they were one of my first big clients. And then I met Katie Smith, who had moved here from New York, about at the point where I needed to hire somebody in order to grow. And I'm like, oh, you're awesome. You have PR background. We really like each other and work well together. So she came on as my first employee in April of 2016, I guess. And together we've really grown the company. And interestingly enough, it's included a lot of the New York luxury scene that I was a part of. All those luxury companies have now been feeding us a lot. When Hermes wanted to come to town, they called us.
Yeah.
So we did a pop-up with them. And then my good buddies at KCD, which is this high-end luxury fashion PR firm, they subcontracted a project with Cartier to us. And, when fashion media come through town, they know to call us. Yeah. And we're kind of like
and that's only going to happen more and more because Nashville is
exactly all these opportunities.
A very fast emerging second tier city.
Yeah.
Second tier cities are kind of cool because their story hasn't been told yet.
Totally. Oh, right? Yeah.
That's
and I love all that.
We're still
stuff.
telling it.
We're still telling
right
it.
now.
Right. Yeah. And we're all a part of it, which is like I said, it's like, and now so I really feel like, and a lot of people, when I tell them I've been here 15 years, they're like, really? It seems like you've only been here. And I was like, well, really, to be honest with you, there's kind of my life before I moved back to New York and post sobriety up until I moved to New York. And then when I came back and I was like, you know what? I'm not leaving. This is where I am.
Yeah.
I want my own company. I never want to work for anybody again. and I want to steer this thing, and I want to make it about doing good work and working with nice people who have a bigger vision for what they do other than just like making money.
Yeah, right.
You know, who are kind. I want to be creative. I want to work with people I like, you know, or have my team, create a team that I really like, and just to do good work.
Yeah.
It's fun.
Yeah.
And to have fun doing it.
Yeah.
And like, I've been so lucky. Like I've got 6 employees now.
You're growing, girl.
I know, right?
Yeah.
In 3.5 years. So it's amazing. It's like, it's nothing I ever knew I wanted, but it's everything I've ever wanted.
Okay. I have one last question.
Yeah.
And then we're going to wrap. But,
okay.
So you've got this company, the Callaway.
Mm-hmm.
You're doing incredible work.
Thank you.
But then you also still write.
Yeah.
Like you've got...
Oh, yeah, the Callaway Report. The
yeah.
blog. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
Which is...
Yeah.
Wait, was that because it's not as consistent?
Yes. You called me on it. He called me on it.
I didn't know that one.
It is like I just go every time because I'm still so.
That's so funny. So, but it is. I mean.
It's a lot, and the thing is, when I started, okay, so my idea
you got busy building a business.
I got busy building a business,
You got busy
and when I
building a
first
business.
started
That's
doing
totally
it,
okay.
I love these long form interviews. I love
And
using
they're really
original
long
photography.
form.
They're really long form. They go deep.
Yeah.
I don't want to go shallow.
Right.
I fucking hate that.
Right.
You know, it's
Right.
like I like people who are immediately like, "Hey, let me tell you, I'm gonna open a vein for you." You know, it's like those are the people I want to talk to. I want to find out interesting things. That's why I love this format.
Yeah.
You know, you can go deep.
Yeah, that's right.
And you can't do that in 300 words.
Yeah.
And we keep on trying. My team, God bless them, we have all these meetings about how to resurrect the Callaway Report, how to make it easier for me, how to make it formulaic. And I'm like, I'm like, okay. And then I go, no, I can't do it.
Yeah.
You know, it has to feel right.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to get out of my way because I know I'm the problem in making it more regular, but also to make it still be what I want it to be in a way that I can handle.
Yeah. Okay.
But we are doing great dinner parties. My friend Emily Dorio, who's a photographer, and I are doing these. It's called a movable feast.
Oh, okay.
And we've got these dinner parties slated for the rest of the year. So there is like still that community
You're still
focus.
doing the Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But there's so many stories to tell. You know,
I mean, it feels like an unlimited number of stories
to tell. It really
to tell.
does.
The only thing I can sort of tell you from my perspective is I spent the last 4+ years, building Jumpstart Foundry and Health Further with Vic, and Nashville Soccer Club.
Yeah.
And
your resume is long.
and I had no time to be creative. I still have involvement in all 3, probably the most of the 3 being Health Further because I'm like still steering that ship. But I've pared that back so much. Like now it's all about high impact and strategy and relationships.
Amazing.
And it's not about this like festival thing because doing creative work takes a lot of time and energy.
It really does.
And space to like.
Oh my God.
Just. I've taken Wednesdays basically off.
Yeah.
Just so like I can have a day to just like.
You've got to, and it's really hard to explain to people.
Yeah.
I
don't know that you can do both.
Yeah.
Things.
It's hard.
It's hard.
I've had this conversation a couple of times with people I really respect about like honestly it's like writer's block or it's like a creative block.
Yeah.
And like, but you do have to have that room to be creative. And right now I'm doing an addition to my house. It is like a full-time job.
And by the way,
I'm doing an addition to my job.
Building a business is a creative.
It is.
It is a creative act.
And I've never had so much fun. I really haven't.
It's an amazing creative act to do.
Yeah.
And
it is creative. You're absolutely
and
right.
it takes all that energy.
It does. It takes a lot of energy, and it's highly personal.
Yes.
And that's
personal.
like, and I try to, but I don't want to separate myself from it.
Yeah.
It's like
why should you?
It has my name on the fucking thing. It's
exactly.
Like,
yeah. You'll never be able to do that. That's right. That's right.
But I'm really proud, and I think it makes me stretch my boundaries in a lot of ways, and like I like that.
Yeah.
And expand, it challenges me to think differently and to think more broadly. Well, broader.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
On expanding the meaning of the Callaway last name.
Thank you. That's awfully, yes, that is a great, you brought that back to the That's very good. Wrap that up.
Yeah, you started with a pretty heavy legacy to carry, and I think you've
I hope
done
so.
it. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, and like...
do good work, help people.
In your own way, right?
Yeah,
like, there's so many people who are going to know the Callaway name for you.
Yeah,
and
I hope so. I hope so.
Yeah.
And I just hope
for you, you'll always have that. But just know, like you've created.
Thank you.
Yeah,
that's so nice, and that's important. As long as we're known for being nice, being fair, doing good work, and helping people, it's really important.
That's amazing. Thank you so much for.
Oh my God! Thank you for having
time.
me. This has been so much fun.
Yeah, I normally ask that, say how long we go, and at a certain point I was like, I'm not fucking doing that. People just gonna have to deal with it.
Yeah.
But there's gonna be people who are gonna love this.
Okay, good. Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for doing this. We'll do it again.
Yeah, we will.
All right. Until next time.
Bye.
Peace.